Yo, yo, what? What's happening, world? It's me, Dank, P.H.A.R.T, the pirate poet. P.H.A.R.T is spelled P.H.A.R.T, is an acronym for pretty hot and reasonably talented. I am a poet, community organizer, psychedelic activist in the lovely Boulder, Colorado area. Right now I'm promoting a campaign called The Poem, the Peace on Earth Movement, and the Peaceful Mother Lover Challenge, where you all make peace on Earth by making peace signs on the earth. Peace on Earth, y'all. We can do it. And then you contribute $1 to me at Venmo, Dank P.H.A.R.T, DANK-P.H.A.R.T, PayPal, dankph@gmail.com, and 33% go to organizations working to help make a better planet for all of us, working with permaculture, regenerative culture, and plant medicines and psychedelics for a whole systems view and understanding of this being that is life. Oh, yeah. Be sure, make some comments. Let's talk. Let's have some conversations. I appreciate you. I love you. Sending lots of love and positivity your way. Anyways, I'm here today to talk to you about my lineage as a writer. I connect very deeply to the beats, and also Ken Kesey. The beats are Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, specifically as writers, and then also Gary Snyder, who was portrayed as Jaffe Ryder in Dharma Bums, and then William Burroughs was also there as part of that, and there were some others as well. But that is really my foundation for my lineage and my inspiration as a writer, and it all came very organically to me. And in that process, I always loved reading. It was always one of my favorite things to do since I got it figured out my second time through first grade, and it was right after high school that I'm not sure exactly how it came into my field of awareness. I think it was some of my friends, and but I got myself a copy of Jack Kerouac's On the Road, purchased, and also Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and then I got Electrical Acid Test from the local library. So I ended up not finishing one Electrical Acid Test because I had gotten it to the library, and that has a special place in my heart. I'll tell more about it later, but also because one of my friend's dads when I was in high school said, "You should read Electrical Acid Test. I think you'll like it." I'm not sure, I must have been showing signs of my inclinations towards exploration via substances. Practice carefully. Test your drugs. Dance safe. Yeah, all that stuff. Good stuff. Take care of yourself. But anyways, back to the books. So I got myself On the Road, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Electrical Acid Test. I fell in love with On the Road and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. What really turned me on about On the Road was I really enjoyed the style but it was not necessarily, it wasn't the easiest thing for me to get through the first time. But what really turned me on about it was the long conversations about life and philosophy, and exploring about what it is this reality is, and chasing the ephemeral now, the it for life, because that's what the whole book really was them going through their life and looking for that experience that really fills you up, and just like with so much that all of the world falls away and you're just fully there, present, embodied in that raw, pure, like straight in the vein of God. And it's just pure electricity. And also the philosophy and the exploration of writing and running around and just having adventures. And I felt that was very much what I was already doing in my life and where I wanted to go in my life, and so fell very much in love with that. And then One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, also just super fell in love with that book. I had a great affinity with the main character, R.P. McMurphy, and his rebellion and fighting against the structure that was binding us into just being constricted beings that aren't allowed to really feel our full embodiment and like being the raw wild, natural beasts that we are, and trying to make us conform and put on suits and all of that madness. I actually got this tie from Ken Kesey's son, Zane Kesey, at the Northwest String Summit. It is all original acid test art. And part of me having the tie on my head, I'm going to tell that story another time, but it has to do with the rebellion that R.P. McMurphy represents, and breaking out of the mold of that constricts us. And now, we can have structure is good, but too much structure inhibits, and no structure inhibits as well. So it's a balance of it all. And so those books really I never finished Electric Acid Test because I had to go back to the library, but it definitely resonated with me, and I knew I would eventually come back to it and pick it up. But with On the Road and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I was all in on these characters and who they were and what they represented, but I didn't quite know really the full picture of them, and I would start to discover that over the next 4 years in college. In college, my freshman year, I discovered that I was a poet, and the first book of poetry that I got was Howl by Allen Ginsberg. Again, I don't recall where it came into my field of awareness, but I had already been reading Kerouac, so there was probably some understanding of his relationship to that. I don't quite recall, but I got Howl, and just reading that first opening lines of the poem, I've seen Starving, Hysterical, Naked, I've seen the best minds of my generation, but anyways, all of that, and just really fell in love with poetry itself, and fell in love with his rawness of poetry and just the fearless expression that he put forth, and was just really lit by it. And then through that, over those years, also read more Kerouac, Dharma Bums, and Dharma Bums, well, it's one of my favorite books of really all time, and that book really set also the tone for my life and where I was going and how I was relating to the world. And there was a lot of exploration and consciousness through Buddhism, and they would also smoke a lot of cannabis. They called it tea in the novels, a lot of the novels, and Kerouac speaking of the rucksack revolution and just getting out of the structure again that society was binding us by, I think we still obviously need to work and be engaged in this world, but it's a different kind of engagement that allows us to live on our passions and really striving for our own personal relationship with this creation and exploration. And then also in Dharma Bums was Jaffe Ryder, who was in real life Gary Snyder, and discovering his poetry and his views of the world and his ecocentric understanding. He's been off grid since probably like the 70s in Nevada City, California, just outside of Nevada City, California, and a place called Kit Kadizzy. And his literature also is but his literature is very different than Ginsberg's, but it still has its own pure rawness that is its own thing that is Gary. And this thing is all poetry. Really, you as writers, we need to find ourselves and find our own voice and be in that, and find inspiration in people that inspired you, but find your own voice within that. And so discovering more Kerouac and Ginsberg, and really understanding the journeys that they were living and the realities that they were pushing for in conscious exploration, and really just trying to engage life in a forward manner that is headlong and fully into it, and drunk on the ecstasy of experience. And there were definitely a lot of issues with them as people, and some of the things and interactions that they did in the world were not healthy interactions or for relationships between men and women, and also adults and children. So I do want to be also honest within all that, and yes, they inspired me a lot of ways as artists, but also being mindful of realizing that just because someone inspires you as an artist doesn't mean you have to be fully them or them, and how we can all move forward and grow into a more healthy world together. So discovering them and all of that unfolding, and then my senior year college, I found myself again I purchased a copy this time of Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. And after all of those years of exploring Kerouac and his companions, Ginsberg, Neal Cassady, and all these different pieces, I had the scene set for me for Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. And I remember reading that opening part of it, and the opening, couple paragraphs or chapter, and it starts with a pickup truck driving through the city, and there's a kid in the back, and he's pretending to shoot, like, and it talks about some sun glistening off of some mirrors and refracting kind of bright lights, and it drives to this it was formerly I believe, car shop, and they come in there, they park, and there's just this, now it's turned into what is currently the headquarters of the Pranksters in San Francisco, and there's this guy just beating frantically with a sledgehammer to this jazz, like right on beat, just boom, 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 and it reveals that it's Neal Cassady, and at that moment, everything just starts clicking in my brain, because Neal Cassady was Dean Moriarty and On the Road, and was kind of the impetus and the character that Kerouac was following and writing about. Kerouac was an observer, was a witness, was a writer. He did engage in life, but he was looking for characters that would be inspirational and lead to good stories and good writing. And so once that happened, all of a sudden everything just started clicking, and I was like, oh shit, making all of these connections and starting to realize how all of this movement of literature and writing in the 50s that was published in the late 50s kind of connected into the hippies in the early 60s, and would lead into what was going on in the 60s and psychedelics and LSD, and starting to realize Kesey's relationship, or Ginsberg's relationship and all of that, and how him and Kesey interconnected, and all of this connection of lineage. And that is where I definitely tapped into within the psychedelics, and also the literature and the exploration and life, and this creation and forms of connection with different multidimensional realms, and all of this kind of stewed around and was the perfect cauldron for who I am and what I was, and my expression and experience in life, and all that had led up to it. And it was, I'll tell more about this other story, but another video. But the night I was finishing reading Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, I got a phone call from a friend. It was winter break, Christmas break, 2008. And my senior year of college, I get a phone call, and he's like, "Dude, I've got some blotter of LSD," and it was like, finish reading this book that's like the holy grail of the origins of the artistic, creative aspect side, a major part of it, of the LSD culture that spawned in the 60s, and it was just like, what the fuck? And it was not my first time doing LSD, but I just was like, obviously I gotta go do it. And then I go by, finish the book, and then part of the trip I witnessed Kerouac, Kesey, Ginsberg, and Cassady all as energetic presences being there with me, and they passed the torch of literature and stuff on to me in that experience. I'll go more into that another one of those videos later. But so it was just this raw crystallization of who I was and all of it, and feeling like I'm very much carrying forth that conscious revolution in that process. And then it was in 2011 that I moved to Boulder, where in 2013 was accepted into Naropa's Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. And for my MFA in poetry, I ended up dropping out a few months in, because I had a growing family, and my community organizing around the arts was all starting to come together, and so my career was starting to flourish and thrive in many different ways. And so I decided to save the money that I would spend on college and put towards investing into myself as an artist. And I've been kind of on that adventure ever since, and still working on stepping up and creating more and putting my books out there in the world and being myself into this reality. Yeah, that is in essence distilled my lineage as an artist and where I'm coming from, and not just an artist but as a conscious psychedelic explorer within these realms and this creativity and this wild, crazy, weird life. But thank you all so much for being here with me as we continue on the adventure that is life. The strange, mad, wild creation. Thank you so much for being here with me. I truly appreciate you. Sending lots of love. Make peace on earth. Peaceful Mother Lover Challenge. Let's make it all happen. Make it collectively. Activate, galactivate, cultivate, create. Woo woo! Loving this life and loving you. Feel your passions. Let them spark you. Be sure to follow me up on the YouTube, the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, all under Dank, P.H.A.R.T, D-A-N-K, P.H.A.R.T. Also, I'm up on Patreon. I'm just going to keep on bringing y'all more content. Thank y'all so much for taking your time to be here and witness. Much love. Peace out.